You think you had that queasy Sunday night feeling last night about going back to work today? Well, all the football highlight shows in the world probably could not make that feeling go away for Barack Obama. Today for Obama was essentially the toughest, busiest first day back in the history of first days back. And as most first days typically go, it was divided between the political saying, hi, how are you part, and the getting down to business part. Now, politics-wise, Obama returned to Washington in search of a new Commerce Secretary nominee. New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson withdrew his nomination because of a federal investigation into links between state contracts and campaign contributions back home in Santa Fe. With the Richardson kerfuffle in the background and undoubtedly some Plan B Commerce Secretary vetting happening behind the scenes, the president-elect today made FaceTime with just about every other famous Politico in Washington. The nation's capital was transformed into Get Your Picture Taken with Obama Day. There was the photo op with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. There was the requisite how do you do with Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, the bipartisan say cheese meeting with Republicans like House Minority Leader John Boehner and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. Oh, for the power to read minds for this awkward photo op. That was the political part of Obama's day. But there was also the comparatively underreported executive part of his day, the business part. For today, that was the floating of a handful of major appointments. President Clinton's former chief of staff, Leon Panetta, was reportedly tapped to be the new CIA director. Retired Navy Admiral Dennis Blair was tapped for director of national intelligence. And Assistant Attorney General for the Office of Legal Counsel will be Don Johnson. What? The Miami Vice guy with the white cotton That can't be right. Oh, wait, not that Don Johnson, but this much more accomplished Don Johnson, D-A-W-N, the one who served under President Clinton in the Office of Legal Counsel. Darn those homonyms. All right, so what do these new nominees have in common? Well, none of them are associated with two of the big Bush administration constitutional scandals of the past 8 years, torture and warrantless wiretapping. In a March op-ed in the New York Times, CIA Director-designee Leon Panetta wrote, quote, "Our forefathers prohibited cruel and unusual punishment because that was how tyrants and despots ruled in the 1700s. They wanted an America that was better than that. Torture is illegal, immoral, dangerous, and counterproductive." Illegal, immoral, dangerous, and counterproductive. As opposed to the assessment of the current CIA director, Michael Hayden, which was essentially, when you say torture, what do you really mean by torture? Now, for her part, Don Johnson, she'll be heading up the Office of Legal Counsel, a definitively obscure position until President Bush OLC appointees like John Yoo started writing memos that said torture is legal because we say it's legal. The new OLC sheriff, Don Johnson, wrote about Yoo's memo, quote, "Where is the outrage, the public outcry, the shockingly flawed content of this memo, the deficient processes that led to its issuance, the horrific acts it encouraged, all demand our outrage. We must regain our ability to feel outrage whenever our government acts lawlessly." End quote. Wow, change. Believe that. And then there is retired Navy Admiral Dennis Blair for DNI, Director of National Intelligence. Now, ignoring for a moment the continuation of the recent trend toward putting the whole intelligence community under military control, which personally kind of freaks me out as an anti-junta sort of person, it still is, if you put that aside, it still is a big deal that Admiral Blair does not have links to President Bush's warrantless wiretapping and torture policies, unlike the guy Obama reportedly previously had in mind for the job first, CIA veteran John Brennan. So, have President-elect Obama's executive decisions on this de facto day one finally delivered the change that his supporters were counting on? Was today the clean break with the Bush administration on constitutional issues day? Joining us now is NBC News Chief Foreign Affairs Correspondent Andrea Mitchell. Andrea, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's nice to see you.
My pleasure. Happy New Year. Good to see you.
Thank you. Were these choices today surprises?
They were surprises only if you weren't reading his lips. He said that there was going to be change in exactly this area, and these are dramatic changes. Sure, Leon Panetta is being criticized by some, and we can get into that, for not being an experienced intelligence official, and he may have some problems with confirmation. It's clear that the incoming Obama folks did not check all the boxes, did not check with the key people that they need to check with in the Senate, because the incoming chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Dianne Feinstein, is not pleased. Neither is Jay Rockefeller, the outgoing chair. Neither of them were checked with, and they are in fact supporting, I am told, Steve Kappas, who is the current deputy director of the CIA. So there's a lot of roiling going on the intelligence front. In terms of the Justice Department nominees, these people have been praised by Larry Tribe, by Walter Dellinger, people from the Clinton era, and also, liberal, strong, civil libertarians, and esteemed judicial authorities. Walter Dellinger, a former deputy solicitor general. You have Elena Kagan as solicitor general, the first woman, and the highly regarded dean of the Harvard Law School. So this is a very important step and a very big signal in terms of a change. This is 180 degrees difference in terms of the Office of Legal Counsel from John Yoo and David Addington from the Dick Cheney era.
On the Leon Panetta choice, are the objections from Rockefeller and Feinstein substantive about Leon Panetta, or are you sensing that they may have more, that their objections may have more to do with the fact that Rockefeller and Feinstein were not consulted?
No, I think that these are substantive objections. This is a different view of what the agency needs right now. These are people who really are professionals, because they take the role of being chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee very, very seriously. And they feel that the agency has begun to turn around, that it's begun to become more professional and really adhere more to the rule of law, that morale has been a mess in the agency, and that they think someone who is an intelligence officer needs to do the tough jobs that lie ahead. And that to do that, to turn this ship around, you really need for the people, the rank and file members, particularly those in the DO, the Director of Operations, the covert operations, you need somebody who has field experience. That's one reason why they support Steve Kappas, who's a former Moscow station chief, who has a long track record in intelligence gathering, who has been in the field. The downside, from the other perspective, is that Steve Kappas was definitely in the line of authority during a lot of these controversial and many say illegal interrogation procedures. So he has that downside. Jack Brennan, John Brennan, the former counterterror chief, who had to take himself out of contention because of criticism, because he was too close to the former policies, certainly let everyone believed that he had objected to the former policies and had no line authority for it, and had a lot of support because he was a career guy with strong intelligence credentials. So it's the old argument over, do you want someone from the outside coming in, or do you want an intelligence executive who's been in the field? And critics point to Porter Goss as the last example of someone from the outside coming in who was, by all accounts, not a good and strong director of Central Intelligence.
Was there any reason to believe that the Panetta choice was made in a rush?
No, actually. And, well, I shouldn't say that, because
I only ask because because of the having not gone to to Rockefeller and Feinstein on this issue. It seems like the sort of thing that you would do as a matter of course if you were rolling this out in a deliberate way.
Yeah, let me correct the record on that, because there had been some discussion that, for instance, Chuck Hagel might have been at the CIA, and from my reporting, he didn't want that job. You've got Dennis Blair, a very tough customer, who is going to be the head of national intelligence. And so whoever is the head of the CIA, which is the operational wing and the analytical wing as well, although there has been some merging and some confusion between those two agencies, but certainly the head of national intelligence is the boss, the uber boss. And so not everyone would want this job. Leon Panetta brings some very strong characteristics to the table. He, as you noted, was a strong critic of the past policies. He was a member of the Iraq Study Group. He's got support from Lee Hamilton. He is highly regarded. He was chief of staff in the Clinton administration, but also was the OMB director. He is a good manager, and he's been a public policy expert. He's been at the Panetta Institute, which he and his wife Sylvia created in Monterey, California, and have been doing good works for all these years, for the 8 years of the Bush administration. That said, they did not go to the Senate Intelligence folks who have to confirm him. And he's now being criticized as well by the vice chair of Senate Intelligence, Kit Bond, the ranking Republican. So it is going to be an uphill climb for Panetta. And ironically, Panetta really apparently had an interest in the Commerce Secretary's job that had gone to Bill Richardson. And now that's vacant. So maybe there's a solution here.
So the smooth transition, whether or not it's going poorly, it's certainly not as smooth as it was going before.
These are some road
stuff.
bumps.
Yes.
Exactly.
NBC Chief Foreign Affairs Correspondent Andrea Mitchell, thank you so much for your time tonight, Andrea.
Thank you, Rachel.